2. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, our second sunset safari from the Mara Triangle here in Kenya. Look over there, there are zebras, there are wildebeest, there are elephants too. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Now, we've been sitting at this crossing point for the last 20 minutes or so. We saw some unbelievable action here earlier today, and if you were lucky enough to catch our Facebook Live broadcasts, well, you would have seen a little zebra unfortunately meet its death at the teeth of those vicious, enormous reptilians lying satisfied with their meal on the sand there. At the moment, there are 2 herds of wildebeest and zebra either side of the river, thinking about doing a crossing. As Graham was saying to me earlier, he's on camera, by the way, if anyone's wondering, there doesn't seem to be much in the way of jeopardy in the water. We've watched a couple of zebras go across, to and fro, both ways. No one really knows why, but that's what's going on here. We're going to sit here for a little while, and then we may go further up the river to see another herd that looked like it was going to try and cross in exactly the same place where we had that quite phenomenal sighting yesterday afternoon. My first time watching this kind of scene. Now, if you are missed yesterday, if you don't know what is going on here, where are we, how are we doing this? We're in the Mara Triangle. That is in Kenya, everybody, in Eastern Africa, a stunning country in possibly one of the most iconic wildlife areas in all the world. So it's a great joy to talk to you from here. 510 square kilometers in this particular region, but it's part of a much greater area of 20,000 square kilometers. That's 12,000 square miles or so, and it's roughly the same size, I suppose, as the Kruger, but there are no fences. There are no fences here, so it's bordered by tribal land, so these animals are roaming massive areas, totally free, unfettered. This is wildest Africa at its very best. Graham, off to the left we've got some semi-migrating wildebeest, I suppose. And they're moving up. I think they're thinking about maybe going down to the river further down. They may or may not. We'll just see what happens. Yeah, the zebras shouting at each other. And it's not very often, you know, that we totally focus on 2, what I suppose would be described as general game at Djuma, the wildebeest and the zebra. You know, if we had elephants in the offing, which we do here, then we'd be focused on them if we were down in Kruger. But here, this unique situation where these millions of animals throughout the course of the season will migrate across this river again and again, crossing to and fro between the months of July and October here in the northern section of the Mara Serengeti ecosystem. It is a quite phenomenal thing to be seeing, and it is the most amazing joy to be able to bring it to you wherever you happen to be watching us in the world. And hello, Deborah, armchair traveller. You say you're bursting at the seams. I've been bursting at the seams. I don't even know where to look half the time here. There are so many animals, so many, it's unbelievable. You cannot look anywhere and not see an animal here. And I think on the other drives, well, I suppose I should introduce the drive as normal. Talk to us, #Safari Live, questions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to talk to you. We can talk to you in the same way that Brent and Steph are going to be taking the drives out on Djuma today. We can talk to you in the same way that they can. In the final control, we have Kirsten and Louise, and they are sitting at Djuma, relaying your questions to me, and I mean, sitting in the back behind us here after a very satisfying lunch for us all. There's one crossing there, Graham. There's a wildebeest going across, everyone, quite close to where the crocodiles are. And there could be crocodiles under the surface there. We don't know. Let's see what's going on there. Hello, George. Thank you. I'll tell Graham that you are very pleased that he is learning the camera well. Well done, Graham. I'll pat him on the back for you, George. Now, I think that young wildebeest is perhaps trying to reach its mother. I don't know. That older one that was sitting up top of the bank there. Well done, little fellow. Well done. We watched one about that size get taken, its whole head enclosed in the jaws of one of those vast crocodiles earlier on. And they could be lurking under the surface here, but I'm under the impression that most of them have probably come out of the water now. So as I was saying, this is possible, of course, because of the man sitting behind me, looking at various technical things. Mr. Peter Braat, of course, an integral part of the Wild Earth team. He's set up an astounding number of aerials and things like that. Now, while we wait to see what happens here, very special for you back home, Brent is sitting with our favourite leopard, Sindile.
And there he is, lying in the shade near his kill, looking rather content with that very cute pink nose of his. So welcome to the Sabi Sands. Isn't this incredible? We're jumping from the Masai Mara and the Great Migration. Sorry, I've got my sunglasses on my head there. From the Great Migration, crossing the Mara River to the middle of South Africa in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, where we're sitting with possibly one of the most fascinating young leopards, who's got probably the most unique leopard story I've ever come across in my time in the bush, the young Sindile. Now, if we do have any new viewers out there, this is live. We're looking at this young male leopard live, and you might notice looks like he's got a bump on his noggin. That is a tracking collar. This leopard, as I said, has had one of the most interesting stories. He was born to a female leopard who holds territory just to the west of us. Her name is Shadow. And she's historically not a very good mother. And what happened is, while he was left alone, while she was out hunting, and fortunately a couple of dogs made their way into the reserve from outside, and he caught one of them. And we were there when it happened. We saw it happen, and it was quite a shock. And we then chased him out of the tree to get him away from that dog. The dog was destroyed, and it turned out to be positive for rabies. So there was a lot of discussion. Now, traditionally, if a wild predator has bitten an animal that has tested positive for rabies, it is destroyed on sight, because it is a massive risk to the rest of the animals out there. So, for the first time that I've ever heard of, he was darted, taken into quarantine, where he was given anti-rabies injections, and he was out of the bush for about 8 months, and at a very important time in a young leopard's life, when he was about a year old. And then he was re-released back into the Sabi Sands. And that was quite a while ago, and he's been doing really well. He's picked up another nickname, which is the Wanderer, which is not uncommon for a male leopard of his age. He's probably close on 2 years old now. And he now basically flits between different male leopard territories, trying to avoid confrontations, but he's been hunting well. And a lot of people were very worried that he wasn't going to know how to hunt when he came out of quarantine. Now, a very simple thing with all the big cats, even if they've been hand-reared by humans, all you need to do is let them go in the bush, and if they get hungry, they remember how to hunt. Those are instinctive things that are so ingrained in these predators that it is not something that needs to be taught. But this is the most amazing story. And of course, many of our regular Safari Live viewers really love this leopard. And Valeria says, I really love this Sindile, such a special boy. So quite aptly, his name Sindile means the survivor. And he has lived up to that name over and over again. Now, if you want to ask any questions about young Sindile, and if I might have missed a bit of his history or something you'd like to know a little bit more in depth, please feel free to send me an email to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, you can't see it at the moment, but behind me, he's got an adult female impala kill, so he's sitting pretty, so to speak, at the moment. Nice full belly. And there we go, you can see the tracking collar a bit more clearly now. And it might look a little bit uncomfortable, but as you can see, it's not hampering him. He managed to catch a big impala. Oh, no, half a yawn. Was a big yawn coming? There it comes. Oh, beautiful. Look at those canines. But while we sit here with the very contented looking young Sindile, let's go say good afternoon to Steph.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Brent. And yes, hello. And you finally come through to my car after all the exciting things that have been going on. It's Steph Winterboer, and on camera today we have Viam. There we go, quick as a flash. And what we're looking for this afternoon, initially at least anyway, are some elephant. We had a young guide with us this morning, Adam, and he found some elephant in this very area, and I want to come back and see exactly who and which elephant it was. We had that elephant without the tip to her trunk with us the other day. I can't remember exactly how many days it was ago now. They all blur into one, really. But I'm wondering if it isn't her, and I'm wondering if she'd join up with another herd. They do this time of the year. You find when herd sizes get to about 12 elephant or so here, they will split. The two oldest cows, which will be related with one another, will split across or split down the middle really, and take half and half. And what will happen then is they will stay in close contact with one another almost throughout their lives. And in times when food and when water resources are very short like they are now, then they will join together and they can form quite large family groups with one another. I think the largest herd I've ever seen together here must have been around 70 to 100 elephants. Couldn't really count all of them, they were back in the bush a little bit. But that's pretty big for here. Back in the day, in the olden days, there are reports of elephant herds and agglomerations numbering up to 1,000 elephant in one herd. Can you imagine what that must have looked like? Now we're on Nyala Road South. It is a very good place for elephant, and the reason for it is this drainage line. This drainage line is the same one that comes from the dam wall at Buffelshoek Dam. It flows from the dam to where we are now. So we're going upstream towards Buffelshoek Dam. And yesterday, during midday, Viam and Brian went out to Buffelshoek Dam to go and get some interesting camera shots of the cracked mud there. And lo and behold, and this is totally astounding, but there were a whole herd of elephant there, some zebra, a giraffe, and some impala as far as I could gather, and they're all sharing that little mud puddle with no water in it. Oh, and the hippo was there as well. I want to go back there and see what is this draw card of these mud puddles. What befuddles me is this hippopotamus that forgoes the comfort of Vuyatela Pan and instead chooses no water, mud covering in the sun, in the blistering sun at Buffelshoek Dam. I don't understand it. No shade around, same amount of food basically. And yet he chooses to move between the two. Only thing that I could possibly come up with is that he gets a little bit irritated with all the animal action at Vuyatela Pan, and you might find that he gets a little bit intimidated. I didn't quite catch that, Kirsty, sorry. Sorry. Kirsty was just giving me a little bit of an update there that I don't know, I'm switching. I took over Brent's car, I took over Rusty today. All the settings are different. Raina, you've just asked me what that piece of equipment is. Let me just stretch across. There we go. That VR, there we go. That is a 360 camera. Let me just stop here so that I can speak to you properly about it. That piece of equipment that you see over there is a ball of cameras, there you go, that shoot 360 degrees. And we use that to shoot content. And imagine if you were sitting, if your head was in the middle of those ball of cameras. And we use it to shoot virtual reality content or 360-degree content. It's a new thing that's come around. I don't think it's too new, but it's a rave for me at least anyway. And it allows for a more immersive experience. We don't yet have the capability of streaming it live from the car. As far as I understand it, we'd need a steam engine the size of, I don't know, something used to power a ship to get enough power to send a signal of that size. I don't know how you explain it. I'm not that way inclined. But basically, we don't have enough power on the vehicle. We don't have enough powerful equipment to send that signal live, but we do content for it, and we turn it into some quite interesting footage, to say the least. For me, I quite enjoy this thing. It gives you the ability to look at a piece of footage any way you want. You can look up or left or down or up or to the right. You can look around and you can turn in a circle if you want. Just one of these amazing things that we're doing. And not to take any power away from that little machine, but just as amazing as it is seeing and having James Henry as a feed for you today, all the way from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, 4 countries away. I don't know, it's just some spectacular witchery and wizardry, sorcery going on to do all this stuff for you. And only set to get better. All right, we've got some elephant tracks on the road now. The tracks are going in this direction, which is good. All heading towards the dam. I hope they're still around there. Let's go and have a see. Lady Macbeth, you've commented that you think that Vuyatela gets lots of attention. It absolutely does. And the reason for that is because it's really the only water in this particular area. So animals that are in this area will go down to Vuyatela. There's a warthog there, running away from us as usual. Let's see if we can get... There, he's just standing. There you go. That is a warthog. See those tusks? Let's see. Because it has tusks under its eyes, you can see the tusk under, oh, not the tusk, excuse me, that wart under its eye. And it had another one by its tusks. You can just see the silhouette by its beard when he turns his head to the right. There we go. You can just see that silhouette. There are 2 tusks there. And that means that this is a male. This is a boar. Females only have the tusks under their eyes. I mean, excuse me, what am I trying to say here? Only have the warts under their eyes. There we go. Stop, start. That is a warthog's manner. And off they go. Probably just been at Buffelshoek Dam for a mud bath. We're relatively close there now. I think we'll be coming back to there soon. All these elephant tracks still on the road. Let me see if I can show you what an elephant track on the road looks like. You can see in front of us there, on the right-hand side of the road. There you go. All those basically blank spots are all elephant tracks. Come down a little bit back towards us, you'll see there's a car tire, and then a blank spot, and then a car tread, and then a blank spot, and those are all very fresh. There you can see some more. That there on the top right-hand side of your screen, that is the cracks in the bottom of the elephant's foot that is being pressed into the sand, and relatively fresh. And I know that because there were some people driving here this morning, and the elephants are on top of the wheel tracks. So it was sometime during the day, which is fine. There's some dung in the road. Also from the same elephants. And now the trick would be to see how fresh it is. Doesn't look too fresh. You can see on the left-hand side there's a little bit of urine that is dribbled onto the road, and you can see that it's already soaked into the sand. Still wettish though, but it has already soaked into the sand. So this was probably around midday when these elephant came here. A couple of hours ago. But don't you worry, we are hot on the trail. Hopefully they spent the heat of the day, and today's been relatively hot, hiding in the shade somewhere. And this will allow us to sneak up on them and share some of the afternoon with them. Don't forget, if you have a question or a comment, you're welcome to send either through to the email questions@wildearth.tv or the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and we will try and answer your questions as quickly as we can and as many as we can. Alright, we might go through a little bit of a signal dip here. There's a little bit of a signal back hole here, but it won't be for too long. I'll speed up through this particular session or section of road. Elephant tracks are still on the road, still going up all the way to Buffelshoek. Ah, there we go, found them. And there's more in the front. There we go, so we followed the trail of breadcrumbs basically. All right, so I'm glad that we managed to catch up there. Vanessa, thanks. You just said I mustn't eat any elephant dung this time. It didn't do anything too bad to me the first time round, Vanessa. I'm not quite sure I'd like to do it on a daily basis, to be quite honest with you. I may pull that out one day again. Keep it in my box of tricks. See if we can catch up with these Ellie. There was one standing just here right now, and I don't know where he's disappeared to. He may be hiding behind this termite mound. There we go. He is hiding behind this termite mound. You can see that ear's up, head cocked to our side. That is so typical of an elephant that's just a little bit annoyed. It's these subtle body postures. You can see swinging the ears from side to side to listen to me. The ear hole lies on the forward piece of their ear. There where Viam is zooming in. There we go. That's the ear hole right there. Punch zoom of this camera, just phenomenal. I've forgotten how awesome it is actually after using one of our older cameras for the first part of this week. Let's go forward a little bit more. So these elephants have not got to Buffelshoek Dam just yet. They've been pretty much standing around here then for the whole afternoon. Look at that, head out, head up, ears out, and now she or he, I can't remember which one it is, I haven't actually looked, it looks like a young male. That is so typical of an elephant that is alert. Now, facing the potential threat, that would be us, was walking away and now turned, is facing us. See, column-like legs, using the trunk. We'll see now if that's just displacement behavior. Quite often what they'll do is they play with vegetation with their fingers, or excuse me, with the fingers at the end of their trunk. No, leaves in the mouth, so that definitely isn't displacement behavior where they're just playing as almost a subversion. This elephant is feeding, so not too upset with us, just was putting on a bit of a show. And that makes me more inclined to believe that it's a young male. Very difficult from this particular angle to see what it is. Usually you use the forehead, but this elephant seems to have an angular forehead in this profile. You see that? It seems to have that angle, although it is quite rounded as well. So I'm undecided as to whether this is a male or a female elephant. Those tusks, there's that trunk. Just one of the most amazing appendages. He's got those two fingers at the end now tightly closed. Something is inside there. VM just doing a fantastic job at keeping all the moving bits in your screen. And that elephant there disappears behind the vegetation, making it quite tough for us to get inside there. Let's go forward a little bit. See if we can get another view. What I might actually do, oh no, there's lots of elephant here. This entire valley here is full of it. Go forward and see if we can get a slightly different view of a different elephant. I can just see elephant everywhere. If I was walking through this particular block of bush, I'd turn around and walk in the opposite direction as quick as I could. Here we've got some elephant that are still standing in a tamboti thicket. And that is a very typical place for elephant to use during the midday heat for a couple of reasons. Tamboti thickets are dense with foliage and offer a very deep shade. Secondly, them playing with the tamboti leaves, rubbing the branches, pushing at the trees, lets the trees exude a sap. And that sap is a natural insect repellent. And so little annoying flies and these absolutely annoying mopani bees or sweat bees are reduced significantly by this tamboti sap that leaks out onto the boughs and onto the branches. This elephant also just retreating into the shade there, becoming almost invisible, to be quite honest. You have a look at that. Not much between us and that elephant, and yet from this angle behind those 4 or 5 branches, unless they flap their ears like that. Contrary to popular belief, an elephant flapping their ears is not a sign of aggression. That is that elephant just cooling down. Flapping the ears creates a draft. The draft goes down the flanks of the elephant, and it also cools down the surface of the leaves, of the ears. I don't know where my brain is at today. Cools down the surface of the ears, and that will then in turn cool the blood that's pumped into them, cooling the core temperature down of the elephant. But on that note, we are going to send you 4,000 kilometers away to James, who was on the banks of the Mara River.
Hello everybody, we've moved into a different section now, and just the other side of the river is an enormous herd of wildebeest. Now, they looked imminently like they were going to cross where they are. They are, well, seemingly about 7,000 kilometers away, but the only other view we had was taken up by some much more patient people who waited where we first started this afternoon. But we're going to wait and see what happens. As Graham pans off to the sort of right-hand side, what you're going to see is the herd and the extent of it, and some of them moving away. I don't think that's their preferred crossing spot. I think they'd quite like to come over where they did yesterday, where that particularly incompetent crocodile failed to kill any of them, and that was basically right next to where we parked now. So we'll see what happens. They do tend to be very much affected by where the vehicles are parked. So if they look like they're going to cross in a particular place, the vehicles park, and then they're unlikely to do they're unlikely to try and get past the cars. And so, yeah, there's no question the number of vehicles here is having an effect, but I've been quite impressed with how sensitive people have been about not blocking them when they are actually on the move. So we'll see what happens here. I think we're learning as we go along here, and it seems to be that the main aim here is to be as patient as possible, and that your patience will then be rewarded. Hello, Donna. You say, what is the score? Crocs 3, zebras -1, wildebeest 3, hippos -1. Donna, it really is difficult to say. Like I say, we're completely inexperienced. We watched what can only be described as a lackadaisical and fairly effort-free fat galumphing crocodile here last week, at least yesterday, making very poor attempt to catch wildebeest, and we thought maybe it was more difficult than it looked on all the documentaries. Then, today, well, there's a zebra coming across here, Graham. You won't be able to get him, but he's going to pop out over here.
It's swimming.
Yes, indeed, swimming. Yes, not walking on the water. Swimming. And sorry, everybody. Graham, for a second there, thought that we had found the zebra's answer to the Messiah and that they were going to walk across the water. Here we go, and we've got a crocodilian about to devour one of the zebras behind where we can't see it. And Charlie, you say, yeah, Charlie, sorry, you say your heart is always in your mouth when you watch these crossings. Yes, mine too. It is absolutely astounding. It is completely like running a gauntlet, especially. So just back to my story before Graham spotted, never mind what Graham spotted. Sorry. So back to the question. We had the incompetent crocodile here yesterday. Didn't catch anything. Then we watched an amazing scene earlier today. I think we are actually in the right place. There seems to be some movement around here. What about popping forward?
Yes, can we go
Robert,
forward?
can we go forward? There's going to be some jerking around, everyone. Paul, you want to know if gnu's cross the river in the night time? I'm not actually sure, to be honest. We were wondering about that. It would seem to be a particularly silly thing for them to do.
This is not good.
But, yeah, we're going to have to go back. Sorry, Robert. Thank you very much. Yeah, they are swimming there. I don't suppose we can get a view there. Right, while we try and get a view, everyone. Yeah, everyone is now racing around to where we are. Yes, good one, Robert. Good one. Get in there. You can see you need to have the driving skills of Lewis Hamilton here. Okay, right. We're going to go back to Brent and Sandile for now. Let's find out what's going on here. We'll try and get into a decent position.
I've got it sort of.
We got it now. There's a huge crocodile there. Okay, we're going to stay with us, everybody. Lewis Hamilton over there got his vehicle in. Yeah, okay, we're actually set up very nicely here. How's it going there, Graham?
Good.
You see nicely? Okay.
Do you see the cock in the front?
Quickly finish what I was going to say to you. So, today we watched a crocodile kill different crocodiles kill 3 or 4 zebra and wildebeest, so they didn't look quite as incompetent as the behemoth from the deep over here, one of whom I suspect quite strongly is sitting there in that water. There are 2 of them there, 2 huge crocs there. And Carrie, you're wondering how often they eat. Carrie, some of them will go 2 years without eating, so they'll eat a huge amount during the actual season, and then they stop eating. Sorry.
Excuse me.
Sorry, we just need to shout at somebody who's getting in our way.
Sorry, he's blocked us.
Can we not see anything now?
Oh, I can't see the croc.
Okay, we can't see the crocs. We need to tell him to move. He must move. Hello, Cat in Tampa. You say, will crocodiles only eat on the beach or in the water? Cat, they eat almost universally in the water. They don't eat on the beach. They can't eat on the beach. Sorry, everybody. We're just trying to figure out what's going on here. We've clearly got into quite a good position, and you may be able to hear that it doesn't sound unlike downtown Los Angeles right now. But we'll figure it out. We'll muddle our way along here. Now that fellow is being shouted at by our guide. Hello, P. Hart. You want to know what speed the river travels? Well, we think the river travels probably... it's a gently flowing river. There are a couple of rapids here. I mean, I don't know meters per second how fast it's moving, but I think it's probably, I don't know, maybe moving at about 3 or 4 meters a second. It's not very fast. Hello, Janet. The reason they make everybody travel in a covered vehicle is a very good one. It's because basically one hesitates to use the term free-for-all, but it is certainly the term that comes to mind first. And basically, you can drive into this car in the same way that you can drive into the Kruger Park on your own. You don't have to have a guide. You're free to do what you want. There's no real regulation of the guiding or the activities, and so it's just safer to make sure that people have a roof over their cars, same as in the Kruger. You know that on the private concessions like Jumo, where you've been watching beautiful Sandile, well, you know that it's perfectly safe But that's because Brent is trained, and Steph's trained, and I'm trained, and Jamie's trained, and that makes it relatively safe. Here, you don't know what you're going to get. Let's go back to Sandila. We're going to mess around here and see if we can't see what happens with these wildebeest. It's definitely going to be worth waiting here, though. So let's go back and look at our favourite cat with my old pal, Brent Leo Smythe.
So we can just see, I'm almost hoping that a basileer or tawny eagle arrives so we can see him sprint up the tree to defend his kill. But there he is. He's still lying in the only patch of shade. We are happily sitting in a bit further of the same tree's shade, and there's not much shade out in this area where we are at the moment, and it is nice and warm today. Probably close on 90 degrees Fahrenheit. George, you are 100% correct. George was wondering, isn't Sandila the only cub of shadows to survive to adulthood? George, you are spot on. We don't know what's happening with her current cub at the moment. It hasn't been seen in a while. Hopefully, it's going to be the second, because I thought she was an absolutely stunning young leopard. But only time will tell whether that other cub of Shadows has made it to adulthood. Now, Shadow is quite famous for doing weird things when she's got cubs, unlike her mother, Karula, who is possibly one of the best mother leopards I've ever come across in my time in the bush. Shadow seems to be the opposite. I know a lot of people might disagree with me, but I think she's lost a lot of her cubs because she doesn't hoist kills very often. It could be because she's such a small leopard, but her mom is also a small leopard, so that those cubs are often encountered by hyenas on the ground, and they're not quick enough sometimes to get away. And while she's got cubs, she starts mating and doing other strange things. As I said, Shadow is an interesting one. You never know quite what you're going to get. But I'm very happy he has made it to adulthood. So a leopard cub up to about a year old has a mortality of about 70%. So it's incredible. So only 3 in 10 leopard cubs born generally make it to adulthood. Now, a lot of people would assume hyena and lions are the biggest killers of leopard cubs. It is not, however. It is male leopards, pretty much male leopards very similar to him, who are on the move, don't have a set territory yet. They are big killers of young leopards. So he is very much a potential threat. If Shadow hasn't lost that other cub, he is a huge threat to that cub. Now, we're right on the periphery of Shadow's territory. We have actually seen her in this area quite a few times. The first time I ever saw her live and on foot was probably 50 meters from here. And he's enjoying that shade at the moment, snoozing away. Now, of course, we speak a lot in generalizations when we talk about what kills leopards, what happens. Of course, we can only really say for sure about the ones we know, and I'm 100% certain that, I've seen in spending time with animals, they have the ability to surprise you and do something completely unexpected at any time. Now, Jennifer says, I think he's dreaming. Well, I'm not so sure, Jennifer. I haven't seen any twitchy mouth or twitchy paws. And I'm watching his ears quite carefully, and he's still listening around. So there's a couple... Well, we're going to sit here, and as you can see, young Sandila isn't going anywhere, but Steph's got some pachyderms on the move.
We found indeed the majority of the herd, but just I want you to have a look at this big female that's at the back here. She's got a collar on. There you can see the collar just on the top there. So very similar to how Sindile has his collar on for research and study. It just so happens that on the same day we found a female elephant with a collar on as well. Now I've seen female elephants with collars on before, and the data that some of these collars actually provide is just most amazing. But this is a young elephant with only one tusk. It's a male, a young bull elephant. You can see how beautiful that tusk is. See the cracks in that ivory? Obviously looks much better with an elephant wearing it than anyone else. Debbie, all the way from Vancouver in Canada, you've asked me, with more Ellies coming out of the Kruger, are we more cautious? Am I more cautious? Absolutely. Debbie, I'm more cautious with elephant all the time, whether I know the elephant or not, or whether I know they're being habituated or not. Elephant, they are, in my opinion, the scariest animals out here, and to be treated with much caution all the time. You can see this young bull wants to come and say hello. He is not feeding. He changed course to come and stand here right by us. He's probably no more than 3 yards or so from the front of my vehicle. He's not showing any aggression whatsoever. He wants to just investigate. He's just a youngster with a little bit too much energy. Hello, boy. There he goes. He's now going to think better of it and move off. Thank you very much. Much heavier than even this vehicle. He's probably about 6,000 pounds already. At least 1,000 pounds heavier, or 2,000 pounds heavier at least than this vehicle is even. Quite capable of pushing us around if you so choose. You can see that spine moving underneath his skin. Have a look at that. Can't quite see his pelvis, but you can see his spine moving there. That ridge a little bit too prominent. And that is because of the drought that we're having. Pickings are slim to non-existent, I'll be honest with you. And I feel sorry for these guys. They got at least another 60 days or so before we start seeing any meaningful vegetation growth. But just look at how many elephants are here. Easily 20 elephant, which for me means that there's been 2 or 3, possibly even 4 groups. From when we saw the first elephant to here is approximately a mile, and they spread out over a mile, and I must say easily 30 elephant, 40 elephant. Have you? Yeah. Easily 40 elephant, which is not uncommon for this time of the year, but and awesome. Let me just leave it at that. I quite enjoy seeing all these elephants. Just look, wherever you look, there's just a grey bump. Very, very nice. See if we can get a little bit closer to these young bulls. Quite often these young bulls at the back end of these herds allow you to get a little bit closer, and that's because they're about as inquisitive of us as we are of them. They haven't learned the caution. This one has now moved off, unfortunately, so what's happening is it's just allowing us a view of these young males busy destroying this peltiforum, or African weeping wattle. Breaking of branches and cracking of wood. Adam, you've made an observation on that elephant with the one tusk. Would he be less likely to fight and therefore to mate with only one tusk? You know, Adam, I'm actually going to say yes. He is less likely to mate. And the reason for that is because even if he's a supremely large elephant, he'd have to be massive, enormous, all these other big words that we like to describe, because he's at a distinct disadvantage when fighting. Elephant fight with their foreheads and their tusks. And the stronger elephant, the one that it can exert the most dominance over another, is the one that the females will choose to mate with them. So females are in estrus for a while. They give off a pheromone that drives these elephant mad, or at least elephant that are in a condition called muths, where they're more receptive to the female pheromone. Males of equal size and stature will combat with one another, and the more dominant one will be the victor. It's not to say that he will never sire a baby. Quite often, elephant herds are left unattended by the really big bulls. By the time the female elephant cow ovulates, the biggest bull that is in that herd will get the chance to mate with her. That is just how it works. So it's not to say that he will never get a chance to sire a baby, it's just he's less likely to do so. Yes, they're just trees swaying in the distance. That is awesome. And talking about trees swaying in the breeze, there is a tree with Brent that's got a cat in it, I think, if he's in the tree, or at least his food is in the tree, his dinner.
Well, we're hoping he's going to be feeding in a tree, and that's why we're waiting patiently next to him. He hasn't moved a muscle. He's still snoozing under a big, well, not a big, it's actually a very small torchwood or greenthorn, but it is some of the only available shade in this area. There's not a lot of shade in this area, as you can see, and even the kill is in a tree. He probably wouldn't be his first choice, but I think he might have decided it was safer to get it up and out of the way of any potential other predators. So not a great place to feed, especially on a hot day like today, and it certainly feels like summer might be on the way. Very, very clever question from Romy in Ohio, and that is, if I saw a leopard stalking a domestic dog, would we intervene? And of course we don't normally intervene. I most certainly would intervene in that case. We definitely don't want another Sindile scenario. I would definitely I would chase the leopard, I'd shout at him, say, "Stop it, you're a naughty boy," but in possibly a bit more in an aggressive voice, and I would get hold of the Sabi sands, so they can come deal with the domestic dog. Now, a lot of you might think that is quite harsh, because when I say deal with the domestic dog, I mean move it to another plane of existence. Now, very interesting when it comes to rabies, and I've read up a lot on rabies because of what happened to Sindile, and also because at my reserve at home we lost our whole pack of wild dogs to rabies last year. At the same time that Sindile got rabies, we also had to destroy a lot of our black-backed jackal and side-striped jackal, because they are also great vectors for rabies. So I did do a lot of reading. Now, it turns out that the further from the boundary of the parks, so the edge of the park that is up against the community land, the villages, the further from that point that you find a domestic dog, the higher the probability of rabies. Now, this is very interesting, and it's actually only very recently published data. Actually, I'm not even sure if it is published, but I got to read it. We're not going to say how, but what it turns out, that it seems like before all the symptoms of rabies, foaming at the mouth, super aggression in domestic animals, the best way to describe it is domestic animals become wild and wild animals become tame under rabies, and then foaming at the mouth, hydrophobia. Those are all quite late signs of rabies. And one of the first ones, and this is all from this new information, it's actually all from the Sabi sands, this data. And so it turns out that probably the first sign of rabies in an animal is disorientation. So that dog doesn't know where home is, so it keeps going further and further away from home. So generally, if we're going to find any domestic dog here, there's a very high likelihood of it having rabies. So unfortunately, that poses a huge threat, not only to wonderful leopards like Sindile, but to the lions, the hyenas, the jackals, the mongoose, and even the antelope. Less likely, but still a possibility. And those animals need to be destroyed immediately. Now, you have to be very careful when you destroy a dog or any animal that's suspected of having rabies. That rabies is mostly in the brain and in the saliva. So if you do destroy it, you have to make sure you don't compromise any of those areas. They don't open them up. And the dog that Sindile actually caught, I bagged. So you'll be very careful. Gloves, 2 plastic bags, put it in the bag, and it's immediately sent off to Onderstepoort, which is the sort of head veterinary area in South Africa, attached to the University of Pretoria. And it is tested, and being an area where we have a country with a lot of rural areas and game reserves and farms, and something like rabies and a rabies outbreak is a very big, dangerous thing out here. So that thing, within 48 hours, you generally got a result from Onderstepoort, whether that is positive or not. So it is a very interesting thing. Now, Jamie, who's a new viewer, a big welcome to you, Jamie. And it's so nice to have you with the beautiful Sindile, who is panting away. So Jamie would like to know, is rabies common here? It goes through phases. It's like a lot of diseases out in the wild. Sometimes there could be certain populations of animals that are vectors for it, so they can carry without being affected. And in southern Africa, the creatures that are known vectors for rabies are bats. So you've always got to be very careful when handling bats, mongoose, and jackals. And domestic dogs to a degree. Some domestic dogs are able to carry rabies without actually being positive, but as soon as they bite something or attack something, they can pass on the rabies virus. Now, the rabies virus is a very scary thing, and there's almost, if you go beyond a certain point, there is no cure. And if you read some of the old accounts of South Africa, or Africa in general, but and let's just finish the story quickly. So there's an account of 2 hunters and explorers, and they were best friends, and one best friend got bitten by a rabid animal, and this was by a rabid jackal, actually, and this was before there was any medicine that could deal with this. And his friend, the guy who got bitten, chained himself to their ox wagon and asked his best friend to do the deed when he started showing the sort of madness, the rabies madness, the foaming at the mouth, the hydrophobia. So it's a very scary thing, rabies. I actually keep 2 rabies vaccinations in my fridge at all time. And when we had that rabies scares last year, I immediately got Jamie and myself shot up with rabies, because we do spend a lot of time on foot here and at the other reserve. But anyway, enough of this morbid talk. Let's go to Steph with some happy elephants.
We have just been surrounded by elephant. We've got dust and bark busy blowing all over us at the moment. And the reason for that is that, unbeknownst to me, I parked in the middle of this variable combretum thicket, and these elephant have just moved into this thicket and are now debranching trees to get at sticks big enough to put into their mouth, to literally just eat the bark off of the sticks. That's all they want, is just the bark. You can see that elephant just through there, just busy with the last bit of stick. And the trunk snaking around for branches. This elephant literally is 2 yards in front of our car. She pushed down this tree and the branches flicked over us. Let's see what she does now. You can see an elephant with a bit of stick in her mouth. You can see how it comes out debarked. So we've just got an email from somebody that didn't send through their name, so I can't say hello. Please next time send through your names with your emails. I'd love to be in touch with you personally, so to say, with this answer. That's what I really wanted to say. It was like, you just asked if these elephant, if they approach the car, would I drive away, or would I allow the elephant to explore the car? it all depends on what the elephant was doing. If it was approaching me aggressively, I think I'll just start the car. If it was just wanting to stick out a trunk and see who we are, I think I would let that happen up to a point. I don't think that I would let an elephant touch my car. I have never allowed that breach. Have a look at this elephant just breaking these branches. I've never allowed that breach or that type of familiarity with elephant. I think it you know, it just is a little bit too far. It's too far towards that familiarity for me. And it sets up too many different things. It might try with me just sticking a trunk out and touching the car. Who's to say next time around it doesn't end up in a little nudge or a rub or a tusk through the side of the car? For me, I would stop it, and the way I'd stop it is by banging the side of my car and starting the car and driving forward. You always have a forward route out with elephant. That's exactly what you need. Have a look at these guys. They are just absolutely in rapture with these particular sticks. This little Ellie in front of you here has got his eyes half closed. Just shoveling the branches in. This big cow that's his mom is just using her tusks and trunk. She's sort of trying to break off. There you go. Just leveraging off pieces of wood. Let's see if she actually eats that piece of wood. I doubt it. This tree is pretty much done for in terms of small branches to eat. Let's see where she goes next. Across the road, pushing this other elephant away. You'll see. Oh no, not just scratching her back. That elephant there's finally managed to leverage off. No, he's going to use his mouth to try and bite off a piece of branch. He hasn't quite got the strength or the leverage needed to break that particular branch, and now trying to use his mouth. It's a young bull elephant. Doesn't quite have the experience. You see, just chewed off a little bit of the bark, couldn't break the stick off. Just chewed off the bark, but without breaking the stick. No, again, try again. Attempt number 2. Shame. Leaving bits and pieces of bark. Just have a look at that. No, still not. Nigel, all the way from the UK, you've just asked me how long until survival becomes a problem with them just eating bark. They don't only eat bark at this present moment in time, Nigel. It's just they happen to be in a thicket of these trees of which they only eat the bark. There's a few trees with some leaves around at the moment. A little bit of grass. Let's see what this female's going to do. Please don't. I don't want to fight with anyone today. There we go. No, 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 no. I've done nothing to you. Thank you for covering me in all your dust. I literally have to lick my teeth clean now. All right. Lovely, hey? So, Nigel, they don't only eat the bark, they're also eating a few leaves. I must be honest with you, I don't think that they can go much past the next 60 days or so, just looking at the condition of the bush. The nice thing is that spring is around the corner. Around about the 1st or so of September to about the 15th of September, quite often we have a short little rain burst, and that generally heralds the budding of trees. And I'm hoping that with the increased nutrients in the branches going to these leaves, these budding leaves, that these elephants will pick up a bit of condition. The reality is that they won't start picking up weight until the grass is thick and lush, and that will probably only happen in about November, late November, December, if the rains come when we expect in mid-October. So there's a few more months of hardship, but if there's anything an elephant is, and that is adaptable and hardy. They are incredible creatures, able to live in deep forests and even to the very edge of sand deserts. Highly, highly adaptable, highly survivable animals these. So not a crisis just yet, is what I'm trying to say. female. Corey, all the way from New York, you've just asked me, is this area that we're in part of the Kruger National Park? Yes, it is. We're in what's called the Greater Kruger National Park, which is made up of the Kruger National Park, a state-owned entity or state-owned forest or state-owned reserve, plus privately owned land adjacent to it, but with no boundaries between them. So the animals are free to roam wherever they like. We're in a privately owned portion of this Greater Kruger National Park. It's actually a collection of privately owned portions called the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. And inside the Sabi Sand Game Reserve is a piece of land called Djuma, and that is exactly where we are at the moment, is Djuma Private Game Reserve inside the Sabi Sand Private Game Reserve, adjacent to the Kruger National Park, and in the Greater Kruger National Park Reserve or Biosphere. This is the elephant just using a trunk. There we go. Branch is proving difficult to break. She's having to use a bit of force to get it. Oh, there she goes. The entire branch. Okay. Just coppiced this tree. Most trees develop these long stems and leaves a couple of yards off the ground, a couple of meters off the ground, for a simple reason, and that is literally so that their leaves don't get browsed as much by these animals. And only really the biggest trees are resilient to being eaten by elephant, but even then, elephant will push them over and debark them. Ooh, have a look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? You can see the juices staining the tusk. Absolutely fabulous sighting of elephant. It's exactly what I felt like this afternoon, exactly what I wanted to show you this afternoon, was these close, really close, relaxed encounters with the Earth's largest land mammal, the African elephant. All right, and another one of Earth's largest spectacles is this Mara crossing that we have James Henry at the moment. We're going to send you that 4,000 kilometers over to there in a blink of an eye. Any good spot for lions here in the area?
Hello everybody, we're just interacting with a wonderful family in this most outlandish vehicle behind us. We've moved because the wildebeest decided to turn around. Now what I'm going to ask my expert cameraman to do is pan to the side there and show you the snaking line of thousands of wildebeests now making their way away from the river. This is the next crossing along, so they're basically heading along this way. And you can see perhaps that they are all faced towards this way, and they may sort of turn down towards us here. They may just carry on the way they're going. This river winds 1,000 different ways as it cuts its way in a basically northwest to southeasterly direction across. It sort of bisects this Kenyan section of the Mara Serengeti ecosystem. Sorry, hang on, I'm being tapped on the bottom by Kelvin. Yes? Yes, flicking is not going to help me. What can you see? Lion. Okay, there apparently are lions the other side. Thank you, Kelvin. We can't see them, of course, because they're about 74 kilometers away. Graham, can you see the... Yes, it's up. Okay, look in front of that Land Rover there. The big one.
Big Land Rover.
The big one, and you can see a lion. Hang on a second, everyone. You got it? Okay, Graham's got it, everybody. There's a lion. That is our first live Mara lion. It seems... Where's it gone? It's gone to sleep. Behind the car. Now, it's unlikely they're going to try and hunt a wildebeest at this time of the day. It's not impossible, of course, because their colour is perfect for this kind of terrain. But that massive herd that we've been looking at, I don't think is going to cross the river. This, of course, I have said or based this on my experience of precisely 30 hours in the Mara Serengeti ecosystem. And then the other thing we need to show you here is a massive crocodile. Hello, Bill. You say if I wanted to cross the river, which I inescapably don't, and I was a wildebeest, where would I want to be? The front, the middle, or the back of the herd? I would inescapably want to be at the back, at least in the middle of the herd. It is from there that safety, herd safety, is its most effective. Now, definitely at the middle. Bill and everyone else, I'm not sure what we're going to do here. We're going to sit here for a few more minutes, and then we'll probably try that very first spot that we were at earlier, because I don't know that there's going to be a crossing in this particular area. That crocodile over here, Graham, if you look at it, he seems to be something of a geophage. You see he's eating that rock. Yes, he seems to be eating a very large boulder of volcanic rock, which doesn't say that he was about to eat a wildebeest. Very nice. All the way from Greece, an amazing comment. Hello, Beth. You say you discovered the stream yesterday. Beth, yesterday was the best possible day to discover the stream, because it was the first time we've managed to broadcast live from Kenya. Of course, you've met Brent and Steph down in South Africa. I'm in Kenya for now. We will do another week of these shows at the end of September. But yeah, what a great time to join us, and so good that you can join us, and especially thank you for telling us where you're from. It's always nice to know where in the world you happen to be from. And there you are in Greece. What we're going to do now is we're going to probably show you, we're not going to move, we're going to show you, my expert cameraman is just going to show you the roof rack. He's not really, actually. What he wants to show you is a giant herd of animals that most of you will never have seen before. They are called topi, and a topi is basically a Sabi, and I think they're absolutely astonishing. They've got these chestnut colored legs with deep, almost navy blue patches on the back hind quarter as opposed to the front hind quarter, and then they're a liver chestnut color, gorgeous liver chestnut color, and there are apparently about 200,000 of these fellows knocking about these parts. They migrate a little bit with the wildebeest, but not a huge amount. And some of them stay here, and some don't. And Joey in Australia, you want to know if there are any hartebeest or if there are any eland. Eland we have seen quite a few of. There are quite large herds apparently in various parts of this area. And you want to know about hartebeest. There's something called a Coke's hartebeest that is found here. We haven't seen one. They're not common apparently. So yes, while they are here, we certainly haven't seen one. And I have been looking, of course, because I haven't ever seen one. It is just amazing that you can sit with your binoculars or with a long lens like Graham's using now, expertly, as I said earlier, and you can just see for miles and miles. You can see an unbelievable array of animals. There you're looking at the largest safari vehicle next to the Wild Earth safari vehicle, of course, in the world, driving through the Masai Mara, at least the Mara Triangle. Hello, James. You want to know why it is that the crocodile would be sitting with his mouth open, other than the fact that he enjoys eating volcanic rocks. There seems to be for temperature regulation quite a lot. They like to do it for temperature regulation. They flap their the gular pouch, it's a gular flap, in much the same way that birds do, giving a sort of an indication of birds' ancient history and evolutionary past. But they flap that to keep cool. But that's the main reason, I think. I don't think there's any other real reason for it. It's not very warm though, so I don't know why it is that that crocodile will be lying with his mouth open. it might just be to breathe, perhaps. I don't know. We also know, of course, that if you've ever seen it, and it is an astounding thing to see, you find egrets, cattle egrets, will go and clean out and pick the bits out of a crocodile's teeth. This is not recommended unless you have an extremely strong digestive system, because, of course, the disease available in a crocodile's rotting tooth flesh is probably going to kill the likes of you and I. Ooh, and there's a giraffe. Look at that. That is a Maasai giraffe, everybody. That's our first one. Now, it doesn't look totally dissimilar from the ones that you get there in South Africa, which is the southern giraffe. But if you look carefully, you can see the markings are slightly more irregular. And at this distance, I don't suppose it looks too different, but perhaps you can make out how the markings are very different. We had a lovely question about whether or not, or how it is that how many animals die from drowning versus being chomped by crocodiles during the crossings. I don't know what the stats are, you know. I think you'll probably find that fewer than 1% of the animals that come across these areas and cross to and fro across the Mara River get taken by crocodiles. I would have said fewer than 1% get nailed by the crocs. I think very few of them will actually drown, except during those first crossings where the banks are very steep. Then I suppose it might happen. But I think you'll find that the death from these crossings is, I'm going to say less than 1%. But remember, 1% of 1.5 million, every year, if my maths is correct, hang on a second, is 15,000. There we are. Phew. I got it, Louise. Thank you very much. Well done. Erica, you want to know if there's a limit to how many vehicles there are on a sighting at any one time. Erica, it's supposed to be 5, and that's for a sort of cat sighting, but for something like a crossing, you know, if there's space, then there's no real reason to limit it to 5, and so then it does tend to something resembling a free-for-all. But you know, at a crossing, because there's space and you can see, and it's not you're not going to block animals' movements. There's no real limit. But yeah, it's supposed to be 5. So, for example, at that lion sighting, it's supposed to be a 5-vehicle sighting. All right, we're going to move on. We're probably going to go back towards the first place that we saw those wildebeest crossing. We'll see if we can't see if anything's going on there. And while we do that, let's go back to our favourite kitty with Brent Leo Smythe.
So here we go. He hasn't moved an inch, but I'm really waiting for him to climb up the tree. And I'm quite sure as the afternoon cools down, we're going to get that chance. Now, isn't this incredible? I just did a little bit of maths while you guys were with James in the Masai Mara. Now, you have just left instantaneously from a live safari in Kenya. That is exactly 2,623 kilometers from where we are sitting here in the Sabi Sands. It actually literally blows my mind. Now, terrible at maths, but I'll try to work that out in miles. But he is sleeping, but to get him going up the tree, it's going to be a patience game. And I think it's worthwhile spending time with him. We don't often see him these days, so Dave and I have made the decision that we're in it for the long haul with young Sindile today. And there we go. I've done it, my magic app. 1,654 miles. That's where James is from Steph and myself. Laura is wondering, do we recognize Sindile without his collar on? I think we would, Laura. We have spent a lot of time with him when he was younger, and he has a very distinct 3-3 spot pattern, if my memory is correct. Should be 3-3. Well, if he looks this way, I'll get a picture and we can double check. I'm pretty certain it was 3-3. So yeah, 3-3. Oh, my memory is quite good. So I think I would recognize him. He has got a bit darker as he's got a bit older. Chris Rogue is wondering where we are. We are in the block between Aubrey's Road and Sandy Patch, very close to Vuyatela access. Now Herbie actually tracked him from Arethusa all the way here. So I gave Herbie a big hug after drive to say thank you for finding him for us. There he is, look at that. He is going to be a magnificent specimen when he's older. But now from a terrestrial predator to an avian predator.
Such a typical pose of the brown snake eagle. And he's just such a regal eagle, if I can say that. Sounds a bit weird, but it's exactly what I feel. They got that very upright posture, big round head, and the most sulfur yellow eye you've ever seen. Let's see if he or she decides to grace us with a stare in our direction. As the name would suggest, the brown snake eagle, they do hunt for snakes. Here we go. Have a look at that eye. Yep. Nice. Bands under the wings, diagnostic of these eagles in flight, soaring from treetop to treetop, scanning the roads for signs of snakes, which they whip up. And what they do is they have unfeathered legs, and they land on the road close to the snake, and then what they do is they stab out with their legs using their wings as a type of shield. So they'll move their wings, which distracts the snake, and as the snake looks at the wing, they bash into the leg and they kill the snake with swift kicks and crushing force of the claws. And that's what they eat, snakes. They'll also take lizards and they'll take mice and things, but they're quite good at catching snakes. And I'm glad we got to see not only the bird sitting, but also the... Oh, Jesus, what was I doing over there? Today I am a Norman Nowhere with my brain. I'm not too sure where it's at. I'm scatterbrained today. And yeah, gave us the nice look of those eyes, those big yellow eyes. Doesn't seem like it. All right. Now, we've just come to make a turn around the top here of Cheetah Cut Line. It's a bit windy here where we are, I must be honest with you. Blasting us where we're going. We're going to go back down the hill again to where we saw those elephants, and then we're going to make a circuit back to the dam. There's a herd of elephant that is approaching the dam, and I'm holding thumbs. I'm hoping that they grace us with the mud bath. Either we're going to be too late or we're going to be too early is the possibility, or we'll get there just on time to see them take a mud splash. I must be honest with you, the mud is looking very dry in Buffelshoek Dam. I don't think there's much more than a day or two left of mud there, even with the elephants churning it up. But nevertheless, we're going to go and give it a bash and see what's out there. We'll be there in the next sort of 3 minutes or so. And hopefully enough time to show you. But you have got a leopard to watch, and Brent's exciting commentary, and all of you who have been dying to see young Sindile. So off you go while we go to see for these elephants.
So I'm sure many of our long-time Safari Live viewers have got some favorite stories about Sindile, and all of us presenters do, I know that for a fact. So I think what we'll do is I'll share a few of my favorite Sindile stories with you. Now, he was always great fun to track on foot. Now, especially when Shadow used to leave him for those very long periods of time. And I think he almost saw us as his company, his fun for the day as we would arrive to come look for him. And I think he's followed every single one of us back to the car on foot. He's done it to Jamie, he's done it to James, he's done it to me. And we were lucky enough to spend huge amounts of time with him when Shadow abandoned him that first time. And he was almost always around the end of Philemon's cut line. And I think one of my definite favorites was we had, who was it now? A director, whose name was Tara, and she came out on the back of the vehicle with us, and we do let final control out of the vehicle occasionally, out onto the vehicles occasionally. And I said, well, Tara, do you want to come walk? Let's see if we can find him on foot. And off we went into the bush. And we didn't actually find him that time, but Tara did get covered in pepper ticks, and she vowed never to go walking again. Of course, that didn't last too long. The lure of seeing a big cat on foot was too much. And I think one of the funniest ones I've ever had with him was in that same area, and there were massive termite mounds around, and I was just walking around, going up to the top of the termite mound, seeing if I could see him, coming down, going to the next termite mound. And then I looked behind me, and he was doing the same thing. He was literally going up the termite mound I'd just been up, smelling where I'd been, and then following me down to the next termite mound. And possibly one of the most special sightings that I've had with him. Unfortunately, we weren't able to share on air with you, and due to the nature of the other animal in the sighting. But I've had him when he was about 6 months old, stalking 2 male rhino for about an hour, sneaking up to them, getting within a meter of them, showing a bit of that playful side. Leopard cubs are so wonderful at. Now, if you'd like to share any Sindile stories, your favorite sighting with him, let me know by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or use the email address questions@wildearth.tv. What was your favorite Sindile sighting? Or, of course, we all know the big story, but let's focus more on the happier times before he became one of the most well-traveled leopards. Debbie Vancouver says her favorite Sindile story was when he stalked Jamie, and that day he stalked Jamie from about 100 meters from the car. He followed her all the way back to the vehicle, so all she had to do was jump into the driver's seat and go live with him lying about this distance away. As I said, Dave and I have chosen to spend our afternoon with this young male, and I am hoping he climbs the tree at some point. And it is so special. We haven't seen him or had good sightings of him for so long, and I definitely think, while we've got him, we should maximize our time with him. Even if he is a sleepy catty. Clarissa's wondering why those tracking collars have to be so big. Now, it's so the batteries, it's not actually any of the other stuff, it's the batteries that keep sending that signal. And it's not as constraining and uncomfortable as you would think. I mean, he doesn't look like he's an uncomfortable leopard at the moment. And of course, he's catching adult impala or sub-adult impala, so it's obviously not affecting his hunting powers. And unfortunately, he had to get this collar due to the nature that he went into quarantine, and they need to keep a track on him to see what happens. From a scientific point of view, it's really, really interesting, and there's not much data on these type of situations because this is a unique situation. Now, of course, a lot of people would ask about putting tracking chips in him, and unfortunately those tracking chips have actually been shown to cause cancerous growths, and also their signal is not very good and it's very intermittent, and it's obviously a much more invasive operation because they actually have to cut and put that chip under his skin and then cut and remove that chip from under his skin as well. So this collar that has a timing device and that pressure sensor is a far better way of doing it. Jenny says her favorite Sindile moment was when there were hyenas around and he leapt into a tiny tree. Now, he did do that quite a few times, and it's been very amusing to watch. Well, Anne in Durban, I probably agree with you. It wasn't a happy scene, but definitely an incredibly fascinating scene. That moment when we first saw Sindile and Shadow together. I love how he keeps looking up, checking if there are any battaliers or vultures about. You can see he's hot, so he sits up from time to time. Beautiful boy. Now, as I say, we're going to play the patience game with young Sindile. While we do that, Steph has arrived at what is left of the Buffelshoek waterhole.
I have indeed, and it's a bit of a disappointment that I am not greeted by a multitude of elephant that are bathing in the mud. It's just desolate. That being said, I must be honest with you, this area is just peppered with elephant. There must easily be 50 or 60 elephant around Buffelshoek Dam. Not in it at the moment, but we have got a herd of elephant on the way. And I just want to sneak around the corner in a couple of seconds to see how far away from here they actually are. So, come along. We're going to go down that little pathway there, Nyala Road South, and see exactly where they are. And hopefully by that, gauge how long it's going to take them to get down here. I think it's going to be worthwhile the wait, at least anyway. See them use the last little bit of mud in Buffelshoek. Alright. Well, this is one of those roads that you can come around a corner and just sort of unexpectedly be greeted by a whole bunch of elephant coming your way. They weren't too far away. We came down here just a bit earlier and they were just around this corner. Let's see. might also do exactly what elephants do most of the time and walk completely in the opposite direction to where I expect them to be. Let's see what is going on here. Nothing. It's just the way it is. Oh, here we go. So they haven't moved that much further than where they were a bit earlier. I think they got stuck in this thicket. Just give you a quick look. I think it's going to be difficult to get a decent shot, but there's the elephant there. Standing in this thick bush here. I think let's go forward a little bit and see if we can perhaps get into a slightly better view. Have a slightly different angle here. Oh, they're not walking, they're feeding. That is why they're not getting out to Buffelshoek. But they are a lot closer than they were, that's for sure. There we go. And now it's just a patience game, I'm afraid. What is sure to be... Oh, look at that baby elephant coming through there. That is awesome. Little guy, probably just a couple of weeks old actually at this particular point. They stay wobbly for about 2 or 3 weeks, to be honest. He doesn't look too wobbly, or she doesn't look too wobbly. Let's just see exactly how wobbly that is. Not too wobbly at all. Standing on one leg there just to prove me wrong. Trunk, functional, a little bit. A trunk doesn't hang inert for 6 months, but it does take them about 6 months to get to learn how to use it. There you can see a little bit picking up, well, maybe not as young as I thought it was initially. You can see just playing there, not really doing anything, so not weaned yet. Although it'll take two years to wean completely. That trunk, I would say, if I were to guess how old that elephant is probably in the region of about, what am I going to say here? 2 months? Maybe 8 weeks old? So Ellie, you've just asked how old elephants are. Oh, you get from this one, which I would say is probably about 2 to 3 months old, to the oldest elephants in the Kruger National Park are up around 60, plus or minus 60 years of age, with the oldest animals in the park probably being a mixture between a leopard tortoise and a Nile crocodile at about 100 years, maybe a little bit over 100 years. Everything else below that sort of ranges from rhino and at about 40 years, 35, 40 years, to buffalo around about 20, 25 years. And then you get a whole bunch of things at about the 25 years. Some spiders here get 20 years old, baboon spiders, our version of the tarantula. Some termite and ant queens, 20 years old. 12 to 20 years old, can you believe? Lion and leopard, 10 to 16 years old. And then your antelope below that, anything from 12 downwards to about 5. Hello there. This elephant can sometimes look puzzled. That quintessentially, that view that you just had there of that elephant standing in the sand is dry elephant special. Elephant moving through dung with no grass. That there, exactly. Screenshot that. Bang, is dry land special. VM doing. Contrast that to January. Save it. Put it somewhere. Let it come up as a reminder. And you'll see how very, very different the bush looks like in January. Just 6 months away from now. Yeah, 6 months away from now. Now, these elephants are making these soft rumblings with one another. Cayman, you just asked me a question about elephant behavior when they swing their front foot forward and backwards when they're grazing, and what does that mean? It could mean anything. It could mean them kicking grass or kicking bushes loose with their toes. They use their toes as a type of tool. It could just be distraction. They get bored and they start fiddling around with their trunks and with their feet. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could be aggression. They could be kicking out at something. Elephant can kick as a defensive mechanism. Oh, just look at that view. It doesn't mean anything specific though, Cayman, if that's what you're referring to. Oh, just look at that. White hot sky. Quite dusty, just dusty, kicked up by their feet. No grass, branches. I don't know, it's when I'm in deep summer, I miss these types of views. When I'm in deep winter, I can't wait for the green again. One thing that we spoilt with here in the dry time is something that Brent absolutely loves. He just loves the mass of large animals that we get here in the drought or in the dry. He loves the thin bush that you can see through. He loves the massing of animals around watering points and around food. I'm now completely opposite. I absolutely love the buzz of all the life around summer. I absolutely love the fact that there's just something to look at on every bush and around every corner. Now, what's this female going to do? Don't come and chase me, please. I don't want to do your baby any damage whatsoever. I'm just going to get myself into a position where, if needs be, I can start the car. There we go. Dina, you're 100% right there. I also love this scene. It does seem very peaceful. And now we're going to prove that. There's a female with a tiny calf. Calf's coming up behind her. They are 5 yards from us. And she is feeding babies. You can see the baby will lift its tail a little bit. It's a sign of distress that the baby is distressed. Mom is keeping herself presented to us. No, there we go. I'm not yet to do anything to you. There we go. Carry on. So all I did there was just raise my voice a little bit. She obviously can't understand us. Okay, we've got elephant behind us now, and we've got elephant in front of us. I'm just trying to keep my head on both. But have a look at that little baby. Isn't that just absolutely fantastic? VM just showing you these elephant coming behind us. That's also a massive cow. That's actually a young bull. So that's a young bull, teenager, still with mom. So about 15 or 20 yards behind the car, and then we've got this female. She represents the biggest threat here, and it's her that we've got to keep happy, and we keep her happy by respecting her. Respecting the fact that she's got a baby and that she'll be feeling nervous about the baby's security. Respectful of distances. We don't want to go and get in her space. We allow her to approach us, but not the other way around. Now you can see her family has crossed the road and she's happy. And her little one going to join with her. Just such a special sighting. One of the things here that you can't get in many of the African game parks is this proximity and this intimacy with these animals. No other cars around us, just these animals, and completely at peace and in harmony with us. One of the special things about the Kruger National Park, and always something that I yearn for when I'm visiting other national parks. This little guy now is being left behind, which is very typical of a teenager. He's just into his teens. I would say that this young elephant isn't much older than 11, if he's even there. Just now seeing if it's a male or a female. That'll help me gauge size a little bit. I can't see from this angle. It's impossible for me to tell. Let's see now when the foot moves at the back. It is still can't see. Still giving me a bit of hassle there. All right, now, also covering itself, we can look at the forehead. That forehead seems like it's angled, in which case it might be a little bit older than 11 as a female. But to be 100% sure, we just have to look between the back legs for his sheath, or lack thereof, and that'll confirm it. He's behaving like a youngster. Oh, he's making it difficult for me to see. What do you think, VM? I think it's a female. VM also thinks it's a female. So let's call it, it's a female. So also still a teenager, young enough for her not to have her first calf. They have their first calves anywhere from about 12 to about 18. And so I would say that she's probably no older than 12 or 13 years old, more than likely closer to about 11. And that trunk coming towards us there. Now, I'm absolutely sure that we've been in one of these conglomerations. Oh, look at that. What are you doing? Can't you just break off a branch and be happy? You can reach all the way to the top. Do you have to push that tree down? You're being lazy, and now you've just broken a knobthorn. He's an elephant. So I'm actually convinced that this afternoon we've been privy to one of these rare collections of elephants. I mean, in total we've probably seen about 60 elephant today, and they're all in the same area, although they've splintered now into these groups that are probably about, I'd say now probably about 2 miles from end to end, but literally around every corner we're seeing elephants. So they're still well within communication distance of one another. They've converged on a feeding source, not water. They've converged on a, Sally's having a mud bath, a sand bath. Quickly going to go over to Mom here. She's busy having a sand bath. There we go. Using the sand to swat at flies and other stinging insects. And look at baby, precocial behavior. Yeah, reaching up to Mom. What are you doing? Oh, that's cute, man. You can't help but to be moved by baby elephant. I just think they're one of the most special youngsters out here in the bush. Very, very, very close to Mom for the first couple of years. Here we've got this elephant now approaching us. Let's see what she does now on the other side. She's finished playing with her tree, killed the tree, moved on after eating one mouthful. You're being wasteful. That there confirms that she's a female for me. Just the angle that she urinated at there. Whoa, beautiful, the dust coming off her ears. Once again, I just want to echo a previous comment about how peaceful this is. All right, and with this elephant coming up to us now, I don't know what she's going to do, but we've got Sindile coming down a tree, and I think because we don't see him as often as we do, off you go to him.
So the patience game has paid off. He just pounced up the tree, but he's looking a bit uncomfortable at the moment. I thought he might come down, but he might just be repositioning to get into a better spot to feed. And as I said, it's not the best tree, but I think it was the closest and most convenient tree. Lacks shade, and I think a lioness would be able to climb that tree to get to that carcass if they happen to come up across it. We don't know, maybe there were hyena around when he first caught it, or he was dragging it, so he had to make a quick decision, put it in the tree, keep it away from the hyenas. It looks like he's about to settle down and feed. Can't imagine that's the most comfortable tree to lie in. Jason's favorite Sindile story is when he failed dismally to catch a gerbil for over an hour, and he did give us much joy with failed hunts, jumping into guarri trees to try and catch tiny rattling testiculars, and he was a very entertaining young male leopard. Not to say he isn't still entertaining, but he is a bit older, so not quite as playful as he was when we first really got to know him. Yeah, the bones crunch there. Trying to move it into a more comfortable position. Now, initially I thought it was a female impala, but I can now see horns, so it's a yearling male impala, one of the babies that would have been born in between November and January last year. Okay, what are they going to do, since he's now seemed to be settled in that feeding area? Now, Vic is wondering if we ever show how the leopard kills the animal. Well, Vic, we are live, so if we happen to be there while they're hunting, yes, we will show the hunt and how the animal is killed. He killed this before we found him, so probably between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock this morning, judging by how much had been fed on by the time we first arrived a couple of hours ago. So, Vic, yes, if we're lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, we will show how the leopards hunt and kill animals. Okay, he looks quite settled there, so I'm going to try and move around to the other side, see if we can get a different view. It's just wonderful. I told you, playing the patience game, sitting and waiting, we were going to get some spectacular visuals of him up in a tree. So the sun is setting directly behind them, so it could be a bit harsh. I'm just going to try a few spots to see where we get the best view from. I think it's going to be around here somewhere. What do you think, Dave? I think that's the spot. Put Dave in the trees, but that's okay. He'll survive. Hey, mister. Is that yummy? Yummy impala. So that clickety click is just me getting a snapshot of his beautiful face. Now, I think as the light dips lower and lower, this is going to turn into a particularly spectacular sighting. Who knows, well, we're going to get lucky enough to get the leopard silhouetted against the blood red sunset. Just trying to move it into a more comfortable position again. He's got his head right inside the rib cage. Now, you probably find he's already eaten the high nutrient organs like the heart, the liver, kidneys. He's now having himself some ribs. Hi, Laurie. Laurie would like to know, why is it that lions are a social cat and stay together and leopards don't? Well, they've evolved into different evolutionary niches, Laurie. Lions being bigger and taking down bigger prey species like buffalo, hippo, and even occasionally elephant. It helps to be a social animal and hunt cooperatively, whereas leopards rely on camouflage and stealth, and they've evolved to be a solitary, I wanted to say sneaky, that's probably not the right word. What am I looking at? What's the word I'm looking for here, Dave? A solitary and stealthy predator. So if there were more of them, the camouflage wouldn't be as relevant, and they are ambush predators, and they generally they have to get to within about 5 meters before they go into full charge mode to grab something. So if there were a lot of you, it wouldn't work. So it's just different evolutionary designs of the big cats. Now, Sandy in sunny Florida would like to know, is there a chance that tree will fall over? I don't think so, Sandy. It's quite a sturdy tree. It is a red bush willow, and per cubic centimeter, it is one of the hardest trees, and the wood is one of the hardest woods in the African bush. And it's so hard and so strong, it's so heavy that if you had to put a log into water, it would sink. Now you can just make out, where's my hand, Dave? Am I in the wrong place? There we go. You can just see that spike there. There we go, you can see the horns of that young male impala. Now, impala of that age are often referred to as pen kops or pen heads, because their horns are about the same size as a very big pen. Now that's in Afrikaans, one of the local languages here in South Africa. Now, Clarissa in Arlington is saying that she heard that the leopards don't eat the stomach of their prey. That is not completely true, Clarissa. So they don't eat the stomach contents. Now, if you're a leopard, you eat protein and meat, and the stomach contents of any of a leopard's prey is going to be undigested grass. They will eat the stomach lining, however. So that is what we would call the stomach. So the same thing haggis is made out of, or offal. That people eat, and a leopard would definitely not waste that meal. So they do eat the stomach lining, Clarissa. So while we sit here with young Sindile, see what he gets up to next. Maybe he'll come down the tree right next to us. And while we wait, let's go see what Steph's doing. I'm not even sure where he is at the moment.
Brent, I'm busy buzzing around Buffelshoek Dam because I'm waiting for that herd of elephant that we were just with to get there. They're not there now. We sat there for a bit, and then Veerman and I decided that we haven't driven on a hyena road for a bit, and we're going to give it a bash. That's what we're going to do. I hear that Sindile is busy trying to inhale that impala as quickly as he can. That's amazing. It's nice that we get to see it again. I don't know if Brent's been telling you, but the scientist that put the collar on him and that manages the whole program is baffled by the fact that this young male is not dispersing. He's actually staying in his natal range, and not only is he staying in his natal range, he's doing so in the Sabi Sands, which has such massive leopard concentrations comparative to other places. It's a new thing to science, actually, the data that he's collecting, and it's just, I don't know, I think it's quite interesting to see all this sort of stuff, you know. I like the fact that we're adding to science with what we do and on our observations. It's nice. It generates a nice feeling. All right, so Hyena Road is coming up if VM and I don't crash into a tree first, because we're looking into this white-hot ball of fire that is our star, and that at the moment is just sort of unrelenting. I just want to sort of hold it back and hold it away from me at the moment. Anyway, I suppose I can always choose to drive in the opposite direction. Andre, you've asked me what is the most amazing sighting that I've ever had. Well, I don't know, you know, the things are starting to blur together at this particular moment, and so I'm going to talk about probably one of the most amazing recent sightings that I had. Myself and Scott and Brent were acting as trackers and as walk support during the Mother's Day shows at the beginning of the year in May. And what happened was we came around a corner and we saw a bunch of female nyala standing in a circle corralled around a tree, busy staring intently into this tree. And immediately we knew that something was there that was getting these nyalas' attention. We stopped the car and got out and walked literally amongst these impala. They didn't even budge. The one nyala still looked over her shoulder as if to say, like, hey man, what are you doing, type thing, you know, like, you're in my space here, but I'm going to carry on watching what's down here. And after a little bit of inspection, we couldn't really see anything. When we went closer, Scott's foot was about this far away when I spotted a python, a massive python, lying curled up in this litter, in this leaf litter. Obviously it was trying to get away from these nyala, or it was trying to catch one of the baby nyala. And a python that size was fully capable of catching and killing and eating one of these nyala. But when we finally got to see this snake, we moved a few of the bushes away. We don't pick up snakes here. We actually don't. We have a policy at Wild Earth that we don't touch anything here. And when we moved away the sticks around her so we could properly see this snake, she must have been about that fat at her fattest point, like that. We're talking about probably close on, I don't know, 15 feet of snake, maybe even as much as 16 feet of snake. Just an absolutely beautiful specimen of African rock python here. And she was really relaxed. I call it a she because only the females really get that size. She was so relaxed, she allowed us to sit right next to her, and we shared a moment just sitting with this giant here, this monarch, I don't know what else to call her. She's just this monument to just conservation. And we ended up just sitting there and sharing most of the afternoon with her. And that is probably one of the most recent memorable experiences that I have. Actually, I hope that answered your question there, Andre. It's nice to reminisce about these things sometimes, you know. Right, we're coming to a particularly bumpy part of Hyena Road. This is what makes this road so terrible to drive on when it is summer. It's just these hollows fill up with mud, and then the buffalo go and lie in them and turn them into these big jacuzzis. And you can see over here, friend Brent would see that as a mere ripple in his search for cats. Me, I almost like to go down and go up, take it quite slowly. I mentioned, as you joined us today, I mentioned that I'd taken over Brent's car. He's been in Rusty for the last couple of days. And it's always a bad thing to keep Brent in a car for any lengthy period of times, because his artwork that he creates with these Land Rovers is quite unique. He disassembles them, bits and pieces fall off, and he reassembles them with bits and pieces of branch and twig and so on and so forth. And his artwork was, now are we going to push this? Let's see if we can push this out the way with the car first. What I don't want to do is break our very expensive 360-degree camera there. No, you know what, I'm gonna have to chop this. So let me just get into a position where you can watch my efforts. Right, all the paraphernalia, we get the panga. Make sure that there isn't any elephant going to step on my head while I do this. Tuck in all my cords. All right, the trick with these pangas is to try and get it at an angle that you can, and you'll feel when it starts to bite before you start to take these bites out here. And then to try and take as fewer chops as possible. Right, to do it. Now, my dear friend, I talk about him quite often, but my dear friend Richard Nduban was an absolute master with a panga. He knew the correct angle on any piece of wood so that he could literally chop it through in a couple of chops. It's a pity. This is a It's a lead wood. All right, and now for the last one. See if we can get this one done. Chop off all of these. That one is taking a bit more than that first one did. All right. Put this down here. And the reason why I'm chopping this out of the way is that we don't really want to drive around it and create another road. To be honest, we've got enough roads here. Now you see that being hasty and not checking the angle properly. One last one. Almost done. All right, and that is tree clearing 101. Light sheen of sweat. Right. All this paraphernalia. Plug myself back in. And there we go. Road clean. Without me hacking my foot off with the panga, which is a good thing. All right, and on that note, I'm going to send you over to James, who's on those massive open plains of the Mara.
Hello everybody, we're just trying to fix the sound, which I think is back up now. There we are. Hi. We haven't found anything spectacular at this stage of the game. What we have found is a vista, the likes of which will probably bring tears to your eyes, and if it doesn't, you can be fairly sure that your heart is not as large as it should be. Look at that. A great grey cloud rolling in from the southwest. Endless space. The escarpment of the Great Rift Valley there, just below the sun, you can see there. Just the oddly placed tree under which we've been looking, each one. Graham has been forcing me to peer until my eyes are sore looking for lions. We're trying to find lions because we're going to see if we can maybe follow them tonight. It is a little difficult, but I am failing to find any disadvantage in not finding lions, because this is the kind of thing we've been looking at all day long. And as the sun begins to set, you can just see how the colors have become an astonishing sort of, well, I don't really know. I guess everything's turned to honey, basically. The grass is honey colored. This is that red oat grass, much of it what we call Themida triandra, or red grass in South Africa. Each of those trees, there's some boskia trees or shepherd's bushes, there are a couple of acacias, and a huge grey cloud coming in from the southwest, which may or may not bring rain, we're not sure. But what we did find on the first day was when you were driving around here, what happened was that every time that you found a bubble where there weren't wildebeest, there was normally something else there. We found lions in one of those bubbles, and that's what we're trying to do here. Now, Tim, on the subject of these sparsely arranged trees, you say, why are they so sparsely arranged? Tim, I don't know exactly, but my guess is that this is it's what they used to term a climax grassland, which means that it's been rendered this way by fire. It's got a very particular soil type that's very good for the development of this grass. But I think mostly what you'll find is that these numbers of wildebeest, these huge numbers of animals that come through this area, have kept the seedlings down. The grazing of this kind of grass stimulates its growth, and I think that's why the bush has been kept in check largely by the numbers of animals. I think were you to remove the animals from this area, I think you'd find that the bush would take over. Probably, maybe not too quickly, but it would certainly get a lot thicker. And the soil type here is sort of, well, I don't know exactly what its derivation is, but it will get very inundated. It's quite clay, it's got quite good nutrients in it, and it gets very inundated with water during the rainy season. Is that not just the most beautiful thing? There is a vulture. Now, you know what? Hello, Tony. You say you haven't teared up, but you do think it's amazing. Tony, that's all right. I think your heart is big then. Now, for those of you who are keeping a bird list of safari live birds, that could be a new one. I think that could well be, I can't see exactly from here, but it does look like a Ruppel's vulture. We have seen many Ruppel's vulture while we've been here. It looks very much like a white-backed vulture, and that's what I think that one is. Now I just want to see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's what that one is. Now, what else? Oh, we did. Also, the other thing that we had to show you here was a jackal, and it was a side-striped jackal, and it seems to have disappeared. Apparently, it has a den in this region. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a jackal pup, but it is an extremely cute thing to see. What have you got there, Graham?
Where's that carcass of it?
Ah, there's a carcass. There we are. Graham has found a carcass, everybody. No, that I think is a tussock. Let's go. There we are. There it is there. Well done, Graham. That's it there. Now, Graham, of course, is convinced that that was murdered by lions. I think it might have been, but what's interesting is that it hasn't been finished. So even if it was killed by lions, what's fascinating is that it's been left. There's lots of meat left on that thing. There are no hyenas here, there are no lions here. I think the necessity to eat, well, there could be lions here, sorry, the cameraman just gave me a nasty glare. They don't have the necessity to eat rotting flesh here because there is so much fresh stuff in the offing. And I think many of these animals die of natural causes. Now, Zoe, you had a nice question. I think about when the animals move away from these clearings. Is that right, Lou? Not getting it. Okay, right. Zoe, when it's summer. Right, Zoe, we're very, very close to the equator here, so the seasons are almost the same all the year round. So in theory we're in winter because we're just south of the equator, probably about 200 kilometers or so. That's about 120 miles. And yes, it is in summertime, so I guess that would be any time during the summer when we have summer down in the south there. Yes, they aren't here. I'm not sure it's so much seasonal. They do tend to follow the rains, but I'm not sure it would be to do with hot and cold. Certainly there is a seasonality about the growth of the grass here and about the rains and when they fall. And that's what they move around for. But I mean, we're in theory in winter here. I think you'll find that the mean temperature here is very much less widely, there's a much less wide deviation from cold to hot than there would be down where we are in the Kruger, where it goes from, say, 4 degrees or 40 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up in summer to 45 degrees Celsius, which is about 109 or so degrees Fahrenheit. Here I think you'll find that range is much smaller. Hello Aaron, you say that Ruppel's vulture takes your list to 104. That's great news. Graham wants to know where the jackal's gone. Graham, I can't find it, to be honest. It's not very difficult for a jackal to hide in these parts. Of course,
Brent was here, he'd find it.
Graham just saying there, if Brent was here, he would find it. Yes, I'm sure he would, Graham. He is 6'4", of course, which means that he would have concussed himself several times on the roof of this Land Cruiser. You see what I have to work with, everybody? This is the kind of nonsense I have to deal with on a daily basis. Sorry, James Richard, I missed your question there. I'm going to have to ask for it again. You want to know if I've seen any new species of hornbill? I haven't, actually. I saw one fly over. I heard a trumpeter hornbill yesterday, but actually I haven't seen much in the way of hornbills at all. So no, nothing new in the hornbill range at this stage. Right, I think we're probably going to have... just let's look under the sun there, Graham. The hyena research vehicle has stopped. Now this is how you have to find animals here, of course, because you can't track, because it's totally impossible to track. It's totally impossible to track animals across the grass there, right there, that little speck there in the middle of the screen. There you are. And what happens is you can't also walk. You're not allowed to walk here. So it's very much a case of scanning the clearings and looking where the other activity is. All right, everybody, that's a brief segment from us here in Kenya. Astounding that we're able to be here, and really just views that will bring tears to your eyes and make your heart swell and be happy to be alive. Let's head back across to Sandile, who is also happy to be alive and disease-free.
He nearly dropped the impala out of the tree, so we're just actually waiting here. I thought he might come down the tree right towards us, so I'm standing by, and we're going to stay here for a little bit. I know it's not the best visual, but if he comes down the tree, he's going to come down like this right towards us, and that will be an absolutely spectacular sight. So that's why I'm sitting exactly where I'm sitting at this very moment in time. Now, often a lot of this stuff is about, I suppose, educated guessing. When he's going to come down the tree, where's the best spot to sit. But see, he stopped feeding and he started cleaning, and it's not a very comfortable tree. So that's why I'm hoping, that's why I'm sitting here where we don't have the best view, that I'm hoping he's going to come down the branch right at us, and that would be a really special sight. Sorry, guys. Oof, sorry. The man flu strikes again. So he's still preening, cleaning. So I'm hedging my bets, and I think I'm right. I think in the next 2 or 3 minutes he's going to come down the tree directly at us. So it is worthwhile having a slightly compromised view for the next couple of minutes. What do you think, Dave?
We got a chance.
We got a chance. I think we got a bit more than a chance. He doesn't look too comfortable. He's actually lying on top of the carcass. He did make a bit of a fool out of himself, nearly dropping it out of the tree earlier. There was absolute panic in his eyes as he managed to just grip it before it plummeted to the ground. And quite funny, there was absolute panic and not a hyena in sight. Normally, that type of panic is incited by the other apex predator, a lion or a hyena underneath. Now he is motoring through this carcass, so I think he'll probably be here tomorrow morning, but by tomorrow evening I think this will be done. Come on, time to come down the tree. It's not very comfortable sleeping up there. See that heavy panting. Even though the temperature has dropped quite a few degrees already, still with that meat full of belly, the digestive process causes heat, and the big cats, or cats in general, are not very good at dispelling heat. They're unable to sweat like us or horses, and their panting is not as effective as that of the dog. So they do have to pant. So basically what's happening when they're panting, all the really warm blood is going into the vessels in their mouth and on their tongue, and they're drawing the cool air over that, and then they're sending the cooler blood back through the rest of their body. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that wonderful sky. James is wondering, why don't lions climb trees like the leopards? Well, James, they're a bit too heavy. Although this tree, I think if the Nkrumah ladies were here, this is a tree they might be able to get up and steal that kill. As I said, it's not an ideal tree to place a kill. So a lion could climb this tree. They do climb trees, they're just not as good as it as leopards, and a lot of that is because they are too heavy. Okay, we're going to give you 1 more minute before we reposition. Come down the tree now. I demand it of you, you little nonsense. Of course, he doesn't have to listen to me. And for those of you who might have been new or not quite sure what's going on, we are sitting in the middle of the African bush, taking you on a live African safari. So you are seeing a male leopard sitting in the tree at the exact same time as me. And you could be sitting in Honduras or Mumbai or Beijing. And I am in South Africa in the Sabi Sands Private Game Reserve. And if you want to ask me any questions about the wonderful wildlife we get here, you can do that as well. Being live, it enables us to be interactive. So send me questions using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or send me an email to questions@wildearth.tv. Van Baraj, Marman. So, James Dungan says his favourite sighting of Sindile was the first time we saw him when he came back from quarantine, and James and I were both there and incredibly excited. And that we were. Oh, there we go. Are you going to sleep in the tree on top of your impala? Are you going to make me move? He is going to make me move. Okay, well, sometimes you get it wrong. want to stay on this side in case he does come down so I can move into a good position when he moves. Now, we are hoping as that sun dips lower and lower that he does stay in the tree and we can set up a leopard silhouette shot for you guys. But while we maneuver around, let's go back to Steph and see what he's been up to.
We have literally just gone around the block and now we've come up on the other side of this herd with this tiny little baby elephant, and they are no further than they were just now, to be honest. A little bit further down the road. I think with enough tenacity and time, we will actually get this right. But what I do have to comment on, I've been dying to comment on it since I heard that you went over to the Mara and watched that fantastic sunset and that fantastic thunderstorm in the distance, from what I can gather. Isn't it just amazing that to me really gives you the idea and the sense of where you are. You watched a sunset 4,000 kilometers away from here because it's much further east than where we are now. And we've still got the sun up. I'll show you now through the twigs. That's our sun. And still well above the horizon. Here's the gap between the sun and the trees. And you were watching a sunset with James. And to me, that sort of couldn't really put it into perspective. I couldn't put it into perspective any other way for you. That the sun's already set there with him, yet we're still sitting in the sunlight here, looking at this elephant approaching Buffelshoek Dam. Shindle, thank you very much. You said that I have, or we have here, the best job of them all. And how did we get this job? I'll first tell you how you get it generally, because I think that's probably your question, and then I'll tell you how I got this particular job. But generally, Shindle, these wildlife or field guiding jobs, you have to train a little bit nowadays. Some companies do in-house training, others run academies where you can do training. You then spend a few years getting some experience, and then quite often you try and move up the ladder to the more, I don't know how else to say, the more premier lodges, I would. And the reason why you'd go there, it's because they tend to have the best concessions, you know, in the best areas. And so you almost, I know I certainly did, aspire to work in the best areas and for the best companies that I could. And then field guides generally and sadly, unfortunately, move out of this industry after 2 to 5 years or so. They move out of this industry and they go and do all manner of things, from in the tourism hospitality industry. It could be hotel management, it could be training, it could also be freelance guiding or freelance photography, tour operating, that type of thing is the terminal point. But there's a new terminal point, and that is this. It's wildlife presenting. It's exactly what we're doing at the moment. And this, as far as I'm concerned, is another avenue to use for field guides, and it's why I'm here. And that all puts me onto the last point that I'm going to make, is that I went through the field guiding route and went on to lodge management and etc., none of which was appealing to me until I came across Wild Earth and this wildlife presenting, this live wildlife presenting. To me, this is just, as you mentioned, probably the best job in the world. Oh, there are 2 baby elephants of the same age. Pretty awesome. Let's go forward a little bit more so we can get a little bit more of them. Hello there, little guys. You're born around about the same time. Buddies. They're about as big as a German Shepherd, just to give you an idea. Maybe a large sheep. That's how small these little guys are. Isn't that just fantastic? Look at these little guys. Come now, have a game. Sun's going down, you can do it. Let's see if I can tell you what they are. Little male, little female. I think the little female's in front, and it looks like a little male at the back. All just copying mom. Not really needing to eat. They all still get all their sustenance from mom's milk. Oh, that is just epic. Mom just sort of coming out of the bush there, holding a tree in her face. Jan, all the way from Massachusetts. Good day there, Jan. You've asked me what's the mortality rate of elephant and what are the causes thereof. Jan, I don't actually know the mortality rate of elephant in the Kruger National Park. I wouldn't even begin to dare risk an answer. I'd say if I was pressed for my opinion on it, it would probably be about a 20% mortality. 2 out of every 10 calves, maybe. 16 to 20%. That would be my guess. What they die of is exposure, drought, so lack of water, lack of food, and predation, and sickness and disease. So that would be what controls elephant numbers, would be drought, would be lack of food, and that is in the case of babies, mommy's milk drying up. It would be predation from lion and hyena, and it would be sickness and disease. And elephants can get sick. There's pages of diseases that elephants get. So they can absolutely get better. But even with all of that, I still think that the mortality rate is very low. 16 to 20% would be my guess. If there's any of you out there watching tonight or this afternoon, you're welcome to please try and research it for me. I don't have any current data available to me now. And send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And if we do it quick enough, I'll be able to share it with everybody before the end of drive. So the mortality rate of elephant in the Kruger National Park, and if that isn't available, maybe as an estimate across Africa. Look at this little guy. Ears folded over their back. I actually quite enjoy that. That fold there, just like the blaze on a zebra's face, that to me is my favorite part of an elephant, is that fold of their ears on top of their head. Isn't that incredible? Maybe because I have such big ears, I'd also wish to fold them back across the back of my head. This lovely golden light just washing that elephant's face right now. We are actually in sight of Buffelshoek Dam. I'm hoping they will make their way through there, but as Murphy says, it will be at 6:01 and in the pitch black. All right, and from this golden light, I think we're going to send you over to Sindile, who's silhouetted in the sunset.
There we go. Isn't that what we've been waiting for? And as the sun sinks lower and lower, it's going to get more spectacular, and hopefully he turns his head to look at us. Oh, he nearly did there. And hasn't this been fabulous? We are spending as much time as we can with this incredible male leopard because we don't know where he might be. Tomorrow, he might disappear and go on his wandering, so it could be many a moon before we see him again. Although I think we might definitely see him unless he gets robbed by another leopard on the sunrise safari tomorrow. And I think by midday tomorrow he might be finished with his young male impala. What do you think, Dave? Should we try and move a bit further away to get a different angle? I think that'll be nice. Jazz in North Carolina would like to know, do leopards sometimes forget where they put their kills in a tree, like a dog forgets where it buries its bone? Well, I've never seen a leopard forget. I've seen a leopard arrive to a kill that's been stolen by something and then look a bit confused, but I don't think they forget. So let's change up that angle, see if we can get a different sunset silhouette of young Sindile. Let's get that sun in the right spot. How's that looking for you, Dave? Perfect, that's the one. There we go. And so get ready on 3, 2, 1, screenshot away. I'm going to do the same. Although, I'm going to have to change my camera lens. The wide lens, the big lens, not the lens for this job. Isn't that just a magnificent sight? Dave waiting patiently for me to change my lens. We're having a competition. Who's framing? No, I'm only teasing. Oh dear, I seem to have filled my memory card to the brim. No fear. I have more. Dave's winning because he's... Oh, there we go. He's turned his head. There we go, wasn't that perfect? As he turned his head, I hope you guys got it. I didn't. I think this is going to get more and more spectacular. It could even be nicer once that sun has actually set. And you're going to have that deep red on the horizon. Isn't this just a nice moment to sit quietly and reflect? I don't think we need much talking for a scene like this. Absolutely magic. Debbie in Vancouver, I tend to agree with you. He doesn't look that comfortable. Mike, you'll be first standing by. So, isn't that just exquisite? So I don't think he's going to be moving anytime soon. So if he does, we'll be back in a flash to try and get a standing silhouette. But until then, Steph has got some cute baby pachyderms.
Leopard in the sunset, silhouetted against the sky. Life couldn't be better for you. Well done. Here we've got this little baby. We've been watching him since he left us. He's literally been picking leaf for leaf off of this tree, trying his best to try and get control of that trunk. Have a look at that. It is a buffalo thorn, and I'd like to believe that he's being careful because his trunk is still quite sensitive, hasn't toughened up yet, and those thorns are hurting him. You can have a look here. Just literally, just carefully, I would be putting my hand into that bush the same. You can see those viciously hooked thorns on that branch. straight thorn and a hook thorn of a buffalo thorn. Very, very good food for this little elephant. That buffalo thorn's leaves are just exactly what this little guy needs. And there seems to be enough on that branch to actually keep him full. Unlike his mom, who's eaten the whole tree that that branch comes from. This little guy. Still no evidence of tusks, so way below a year old. Tusks erupt for the first time when they're a year, roundabout. So with no evidence of tusks whatsoever, this little guy's got decent uses of his trunk. I would say he's probably around about that 6 months old, maybe a little bit less than that. Just busy picking leaf for leaf for leaf. Shindle, you commented a little bit earlier about this being the best job, and you're a new viewer. I didn't know about that. And so I'd like to be the first one to welcome you to the Wild Earth family and to Safari Live and to the community that is us and all of you out there. And you said you're a retired firefighter and that you thought your job was the best until this one. Well, you do have a fantastic, or you did have a fantastic job, Shindle. Firefighting is an honorable job, and after retiring from it, that is incredible. So no, welcome, and I'm glad that we can show you these elephants across the gap that is a couple of continents wide. Gracie, young Gracie, you said that that baby elephant is so cute and that it reminds you of your orphan called Snuggles, which is a present that you got for your birthday recently. Well, why don't you call this little elephant Snuggles then? If it reminds you of your little Snuggles, we'll name this young elephant Snuggles. So by the power vested in me as a game ranger on this road this day, I'll say that that is Snuggles. May you forever live up to your name. And promptly disappears into the bush. So sorry about that, Gracie. She thought it was a little bit too much pressure right now, I think. The big female there, she's just come out of the bush. That's about as big as females get out here. We passed, you know, we passed actually another herd while you were with James and your sunset in the Mara. We passed another herd, which takes the total of elephant that we've actually seen today, probably close to about 60 or 70 elephant. And actually very close to where I was chopping that branch. I said that I needed to keep an eye out for the elephant that caused it, and it was literally, they were standing about 50 yards away from where I was chopping that tree. So I didn't look carefully enough. But 60 or 70 elephant around this area. We literally have had an elephant day today, well, an afternoon. We came out to spend some time with elephant, and it's turned into 3 hours with a super herd for this particular part of Africa. They don't get much bigger than what we've seen them today. Jordan, you also a new viewer, and so welcome to the Wild Earth family. Welcome to Safari Live. And you've asked me, is there any basis to the story that elephant never forget? Jordan, yes, there is actually a basis for that. They have an incredibly long olfactory memory, which is their smell memory. They can remember stuff after only having smelt it once. And I have only heard rumor on this. I haven't found any testimony to the fact, but that an elephant can remember a smell 20 years after smelling it. Can you imagine that? So 20 years, and I know that even in our brains, the olfactory sense is one of the longest held. But yes, it gives rise to the expression that elephants never forget, and there seems to be some basis of truth. But Brent's got some lion right at that Sindile. Off you go.
Okay, guys, we've got lions fighting, so I had to rush out of Sindile. This lioness is literally sending this Birmingham boy packing. I could hear them from Sindile. Look at that, she is sending him packing. Hold on. I'm going to try and keep up with it. From keep coming. She's chasing the male across power lines at the moment. Okay, look at this. She's now calmed down. Now that literally sounded like they jumped on a buffalo. They could have. You can hear her growling. I can't see who it is yet. It's one of the mothers. Something must have gone really wrong. No, it's not often you see a male lion vanquished like that. Copy, Mike. I've got a lioness and a male here. Confirm what's happening on your side. Okay, she's running. Apparently there's two other males. I wonder if this is all Birmingham's, or could there be a marauder that's in here? So hold on, we're going to try to find out what's going on. So there's apparently more males on Gallagher Shortcut. Copy, Mark, I'm en route. Okay, isn't this fascinating? I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And as I keep saying, you never know what's going to happen. And now we've got lions running here, we've got lions roaring over there, there's males fighting there, there was this lioness chasing the male. So we're going to try and get to where the males are, where the core thing is, where that other lioness ran straight into. But I'm not going to go through the bush, it'll take me too long, so I'm zooming around on the roads. Never a dull moment here on the Safari Live. Okay. Might confirm you're north of that first Shkova. So that lioness is running parallel to us, and she was jogging quite quickly. So apparently there's just two males and a single lioness there. Most likely, although that other interaction we just saw the end of really confused me about what's going on. I think it's possible that they could be just fighting over mating rights for that young lioness, but there could be something else going on until we get there. We can't really say for sure. Look at this. She's keeping up with us, and you've seen how fast I've been going. We can hear lions roaring to the north of us. High drama here in the Sabi Sands on Djuma Private Game Reserve. I'm so fascinated to see what's going on. Look at that dust coming off her feet. Mark, I'm with that single lioness who is running. She's going further east into the block. I'm just going to see where she's going for now. Just keep me updated on what's happening in your position. Okay, so I know I know everyone's quite worried about the cubs. That's why I'm sticking with the mom. I'm not going to the males. Oh, there we go. Okay, they're cubs. Here are the cubs. Let's do a quick head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've got 2 unsighties and at least 6, 7. No, it looks like all the Mampimpans on Gallagher shortcut at that Skova. They're busy mobile west at the moment towards Gallagher shortcut. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All cubs present and accounted for. And here come the lionesses. Wow. Now you can see all the greeting that's going on now. You can see how alert some of the females are. These are all 3 of the mothers. What's going on, Mom? Okay, all's calm here. All the cubs are okay. So, Steph has got an absolutely incredible sight at Buffelshoek. This afternoon is just the gift that keeps on giving.
I must say, I agree 100% with you, Brent. This afternoon is just, it keeps on giving and just ramping up. And have a look at this. Finally, after 35 million times around Buffelshoek Dam today, we've got an elephant in the mud and the herd we've been following approaching. And this is a big bull elephant. He's not stuck in the mud. I just want to reassure everybody that he's not stuck in the mud. There he goes. You'll see him try and get out. He's battling a little bit. He might just be stuck. There goes one foot. Oh, there goes the other foot. Belly deep in the mud at Buffelshoek. Oh, it's Titanic getting out there. Look at that. Absolutely fabulous. And let's see what this youngster does. Probably just going to greet him. You can see the size difference between a big Kruger bull elephant and an immature bull elephant. Also, just going to wade straight into the mud. The fascination that these elephants have with this mud, I don't know. I have no answers for it. Let's see. Up plastering behind the head. It's been a hot day. Viam and I were just actually saying the sun has blasted us today. So I can only imagine what it has been like for these Ellies. There we go. Oh, flop down. Finally. Look at that. Tusking the mud, head-butting the mud. Having a good old time. Just a real treat seeing elephant in the drought in these mud puddles. See what's going to happen then. Trying to dig out some mud. You can see that the mud's not very sloshy. It's not a wet mud. It's more glutinous gel, near solid. Definitely not what this elephant's used to. Nevertheless, making the most of caking it on. I would say that the consistency of that mud is when you're making a cake, it's just when the mixture's just not wet enough. That is how it is now. Rubbing that. All right, what we're going to do while we're waiting for the rest of the herd to come down here is link you over to Brent, who's got a last few visuals of those cubs.
Okay, so the lionesses are taking the cubs back into these incredible thickets, and we're probably not going to get another visual of them, but they're moving away from where the males are. Copy, Mike, keep coming. Here we go. So all 8 present and accounted for. I can't imagine what that male must have done to get such a hiding. Now, the young lioness actually joined up with them. So there's 4 lionesses now. So not only Amber Eyes is missing. Now, Dave, just keep checking behind you in case those males pop. Oh, as I said, keep checking behind. See if those males pop up, and there we go. Now, there are apparently 3 males here. Here they go. Mike, as you come through that little shkova, come on the 2-track to your right. Okay. Now, that's 1 male. But we're going to go try to figure out what's going on here. While we do that, let's go back to Steph and those ellies in the mud.
Some more members of this herd that we've been following have come down now to the mud and have a look at that. He's also, that there, and I'm not joking to you, is as deep as you and I are almost. We'd be able to stand probably chest deep in that hole that that elephant has just put his front foot in. Oh, almost stuck. Come on, you can do it. Pulling out. Oh, there you go. Just having the funnest time in this mud morass. You can see the difference. Look at the height difference in those 2 elephants. That's how deep the mud is. I know there's no sort of relevance in size there, but I'd probably come up to just about that elephant's tusk height. At 6 foot tall. And these youngsters that have come out first, the rest of this herd with those babies haven't come down yet. And maybe because of this male elephant here. And this male elephant is probably here because at least one of the 70 female elephant that we've seen today, and juveniles and calves, will probably be in estrus. And he's in attendance, as they say. He doesn't look like he's a bull elephant in muths. Nevertheless, he is a very nicely proportioned elephant, if he could do with a few larger tusks, I would imagine. Nice old guy, probably in his 30s somewhere, 30 to 35 years old. These youngsters now leaving the water, had their mud bath. You can see that the mud isn't escorting one another. They just want to have a bit of a game first. It's just joy at having had a mud bath. Now this big elephant, where is he going now? Is he going back to the mud? Has he let the kids play and now he's going to finish his bath? Shindle, you've asked me if this elephant gets stuck, would we do anything to save it? Ooh, that's a tough one, Shindle. Probably because this is a man-made dam. Let me say that. So yes, we would try our best to try and save this elephant. However, the equipment needed to get this elephant out of the water or out of the mud would be, I don't know if we have that type of equipment here, and way too dangerous to approach that animal stuck in the mud with a trunk and tusks like that thrashing around. The only real way you'd be able to get it out is by getting a hold of it from the back, perhaps, but that's the part that's going to be stuck first. I'm just trying to think my way through this problem, and yes, I would try, but the reality is I think this big guy, many times the size of the vehicles we're driving around on, is probably just too big. And for that reason, I think we'd have to leave it, actually. It would be too dangerous to approach too close. This isn't like a whale that his own weight keeps it immobile. These guys definitely will thrash around. If it was a calf, maybe we'd try a female elephant, maybe a youngster that we could subdue somehow. Perhaps if there was a vet prepared to come out and dart this elephant to immobilize it or calm it down, we could then get ropes or something around his body and use a tractor to pull him out. Although this guy, heavy, you're looking at these Kruger National Park bulls, he's probably in the region of about 8,000 pounds. You'd have to have a considerable, look at that. Isn't that just such a beautiful shot of an elephant? VM, once again, just showing us that he's more than he seems. Listening to us. Let's see what he decides to do. Shake of his head. Ah, yes. Those big, massive ears. 20% of his body's skin on his ears. Shannon, you've asked me a bizarre question, one that I've very rarely been asked ever. You said, do elephants' toenails grow? And do they feel similar to ours? Shannon, their toenails absolutely do grow, but like most people who work, I would say, exclusively with their hands in the sand, and I would, gardeners, and I'm thinking about people that live off of the land, who till their own land, their fingernails are quite rough and thickened from all the years of work, and yes, they are short and they do wear themselves down, and you sometimes find elephant with longer toenails than others, but generally I wouldn't go so far as to say that these elephants are well groomed, but yes, they do feel like ours, if a bit thicker. Now it's come to that time of the evening where, with an elephant in the background and sunset having happened, that I get to say goodbye. So from myself and VM, we just want to say thank you very, very much for having an afternoon with elephants. And I have to thank you all, of course, for all your support and watching what we do and all your questions and everything about the support and the viewership that you give us. Thank you very, very much. So from myself and VM, we're going to bid you good night wherever you are in the world. See you again tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock Central Africa time. And we're going to send you over to Brent with Sindile. All those lines, I don't quite know which he's at the moment, the lucky guy.
We are with the victor. So it looks like this male lion is the winner. If you look on the side of his face, there's some new, fresh little cuts. And now this looks like it was fighting Birmingham boy on Birmingham boy. And obviously it got a bit close to the cubs, so that lionesses got involved. And that is Amber Eyes, from what I can see. Although I can't see her, you can just see her ear there. I think. It could be the young lioness. It is quite dark already, so I might have made a mistake as she came past. But it is the male I told you was going to win, who was biding his time. While the male with the limp, with the dark male, who we saw running from the lionesses earlier, was guarding her, guarding her, guarding her. As soon as I think she came into full estrus, he had a nice big belly. He hadn't been wasting energy chasing her around. He stepped in and took his mantle at the top. Wow, what an evening it's been. Now, there's not much that could have made me leave young Sindile up in the tree, but the sound of those lions fighting was so incredible. So we heard it at the same time as Sindile. His ears popped up, his head popped up. We stopped, we listened, we heard it, and then we took off. And I really wish we could have been there when the actual fight was taking place. It is an incredible experience to see male lions fighting, or even a lioness giving a male a good swat. And that noise just echoed through the bush. You can still see how heavily he's panting, even though it's cool. And he's obviously just exerted himself. But what an exciting sunset safari. You never know what's around the next corner. And that's what makes doing this every day so special. Whether it be a bagworm descending onto your dashboard like we had this morning, or a leopard silhouetted in a tree, or an epic lion fight. And Steph had some amazing elephants in the mud, and James in the Mara with zebras crossing and trying to find some cats. But hopefully he'll have a bit more success tomorrow. And there we go, the victor. So from Dangerous Dave, who's a little bit less dangerous than that male lion, and myself, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on the sunset safari, and we can't wait to do it all again early tomorrow morning.